Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and another video in my series of free themed flower pot SVGs to make with a Cricut or other type of digital cutting machine. As you can probably guess, today's flower pot is 4th of July themed. We've got red, white and blue roses, some fireworks in there, and of course the American flag in the design of the flower pot itself. I up-leveled this a little bit when I made it by making a flag background in Design Space. I'll give you some tips on how to find out information on that a little bit later. But today's download is for the flower pot design. That's so fun. This is a free SVG, as are all of the flower pots in this series. I've been releasing lots so far this year. We've got Easter, birthday, graduation, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Canada Day, Mardi Gras, St. Patrick's Day. All kinds of flower pots already done, but we needed a 4th of July to add to the collection, and here it is. So here is where to find the free SVG, and then we'll look at making the project. Let's get started. You can find the free files to make this project at craftwithsarah.com/free-SVGs, or click the link in the description of this video to go to the tutorial where you can download straight from that page. You'll need to register a free account on my website in order to download any of the designs. The download comes in a zip folder. Before you can get the files into your cutting machine software, you'll need to unzip that folder. Visit craftwithsarah.com/help for instructions on how to do that, as well as a wide range of other tutorials on how to use your Cricut, Silhouette, or Scan and Cut machine. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, it's time to get the SVG into Cricut Design Space. Open up Design Space and start a new project, then go to Upload over on the left, and then Upload Image. You can then click Browse to find the file on your computer, or drag and drop it in. Make sure you choose the unzipped version of the folder, and within there are several subfolders with numbers all down the side. For Cricut Design Space, it's nice and easy. You'll just need the 01 Cricut version folder. If you've got a Silhouette or a Scan and Cut machine, head to craftwithsarah.com/help, choose your type of machine from the list on the screen, and then there are separate videos in there on how to use my files on your particular type of machine. But for Cricut, we'll go into 01 Cricut version, and then there's one file in there. It starts SVG-01 in the file name. Click and drag it in, and this is what it looks like. Press continue, and then you don't need to change anything on the next screen, just press upload. And then that will insert the project onto your canvas. Hide Design Space's suggested images by clicking the arrow about halfway down the page. This design loads in at a nice size to cut at 7 inches tall, but of course you can make it larger or smaller if you wish. As with all of the designs in this themed flower pot series, it's been especially created to cut beautifully at a small size. Therefore, you can go down to around 3.5 inches tall and it should still cut absolutely beautifully. To resize, make sure the padlock icon above the width and the height box is closed. If yours is open, click it to close it. You can then type in either the width or the height, press the Enter key on your keyboard, and the other measurement will change too, keeping everything in proportion. Once you've resized, it's ready to cut, but you may wish to add some extra pieces in Design Space if you're making a shadow box frame or a greetings card to help build up some layers. Let's take a look at some examples. Here's an example of how I built up the layers for the background of my shadow box. I found an American flag design in Cricut Access and then sliced it to fit it to the square. If you'd like a full step-by-step walkthrough on how to create your own shadow box backgrounds, head to craftwithsarah.com/classes. Every month I release a brand new papercraft themed class, and one of those is on how to design your own shadow box backgrounds. Classes are an exclusive feature of the Craft with Sarah membership. To join the membership or to find out more about all of the wonderful benefits inside, head to craftwithsarah.com/join. If you join the membership, you get instant access to all of the classes at no additional cost, plus new classes every single month for as long as you're a member. The class on how to design your own shadow box backgrounds can also be used to design your own greetings card backgrounds too. Here's an example of a greetings card with the same 4th of July flower pot. This will make a 5x7" card once it's all cut out. I used the slice feature in Design Space to take some firework images out of my sky. If I drag this over, you can see it's cutting out those, and then I'll do the pink rectangle underneath from glitter card to give it some sparkle. My flower pot for this one is much smaller. It is 5 inches wide, which is putting it at just under 5 inches tall. So I hope that's given you a couple of ideas of how you might use the file, but now let's jump back to seeing it all on its own to learn how to cut it out. Alright, we're back to where we started. When you're happy with how everything is looking in Design Space, press Make to start the cut process. Before I do that, I just want to make you aware of this kind of grey colour in behind the white rows. Zoom in a bit so it's easier to see. I made this a really light grey in the template, but really it will look best if it's cut from a slight off-white. So different enough that you can tell it's a different colour to your main white, but probably not as grey as it appears here on the screen. If you've got an ivory coloured card, perhaps a cream or just a really pale grey, then that will work nicely. But don't make it too grey, otherwise it might end up making the rows look a little bit dull. It was so hard to try and find a white and a slight off-white colour that was still clear enough to differentiate the colours when you look at it. So I went with grey, but I just thought I'd add in that extra bit of explanation in case it's helpful. Alright, now I am going to go ahead and press Make, and that will separate out all the different colours. You can change the paper size in the drop down here, and then you can click and drag to move things about to take up less space on your cardstock. Just make sure when you're moving things that nothing overlaps, otherwise it won't cut out properly. You might find when you change the paper size that it adds bits onto another page. I reckon I can fit that onto this first page, so let's see if we can. To move things about to a different page, click it, then press the 3 little dots and then Move Object. Choose another map, but make sure it's the same colour. So I've got my 2 whites here. These are the same shade of white. This one here is that off-white I was talking about. So choose the other white one, press Confirm. That will move it on, and then I can drag and drop it around to get it into position. And that is going to fit beautifully. So I'll cut it out like that, and then I'll have all of this space that I can use on another project another day. You can play about with it. Play about with your layers to try and get it so it's using, as little space as you can if you are worried about keeping your scraps for another project. So I think that is possibly saving even more of the card. So go ahead, get all of your colours looking exactly as you want them to, then press Continue to connect to your Cricut and follow the on-screen instructions to get everything cut from your cardstock. Here are all the pieces of my 4th of July flower pot cut out, and I've laid them one on top of the other following the assembly guide that's included in the download folder. This is a great way to check that you're happy with all the colours of all the different bits of cardstock and how they look against each other before you start sticking it together. Also a great way to make sure you've not lost any of the little pieces in between getting them cut out and getting ready to stick it together. As with all my layered designs, we'll start at the bottom and then work upwards. So I'm going to move the pieces apart now, but try and keep them vaguely in the same order, seeing as I've gone to all that effort of putting them in the right place. The very bottom bit is the green leaves, and then on top of there we've got our off-white piece. This will be stuck on with foam squares. I'll be using a combination of glue and foam squares for this project. The glue I'm using is Barely Art Glue, but I also like Halal, and the reason I like these 2 glues is that they don't bend or wrinkle the card like some glues can do. For dimension, we'll use foam squares. Mine are from Dot & Dab, but any will do. If yours are big, you might need to cut them smaller with scissors to fit inside some of the smaller pieces. Okay, this is a foam square layer, so turn it upside down and start adding my bits of foam to the back. Try and add some to all the sticky out bits, like the rockets and those little flowers that go on the edges of the top of the flower pot. And then also we'll need a good amount in each of these 3 flowers and on the back of the flower pot itself. When adding foam squares to large bits of card like this, it's important to not only go around the outside, but also to put some in the middle. That's to make sure everything that you stick on top is really stable and well supported. Otherwise, if you don't put anything in the middle, there's nothing to keep it in place. So either the weight of this bit of cardstock itself or the weight of everything else we'll be putting on top of it can cause it to go downwards like this, and then you don't end up with as good a 3D effect. So don't just do the edges like this. Put some foam squares in the middle too. And then I'll also go around with that same principle on those top flowers. Now all my foam squares are on, I can peel the tops off to reveal the stickiness underneath. That's all of those foam squares now sticky. So bring the design in and get it lined up. Get that in place and then gently drop down without putting any pressure on. That means you can check to make sure you're happy with the positioning, and if you're not, like I'm not quite, you can pick it up and move it because it hasn't actually stuck yet. And I've not quite got that right on the edge, so I'm going to give it another go. That's looking better, so now I'll push down to get all the foam squares really well stuck. Next up is this piece to go on top, which will be glued. If you wanted to add even more dimension, you could use foam squares for this bit instead. But I think it will match the other roses overall better if it's glued. And then you can choose to either start building up the flower pot, or you can do the roses. As we've already kind of started this middle white one, I'll do that one next. You've then got this off-white piece, and this one will be done with foam squares. Line that up and push it down, and then we've got this detail piece to glue on top. Actually goes that way round. There we go. For these pieces, they are a little bit tricky to work out exactly where they go, so refer to the assembly guide included in your download folder to see which way up they go, or look at the screen in Design Space to see how it all goes together. There's that rose. We'll do the red one next. This is made up of 4 pieces, and we'll start with the biggest one, and this one will be glued on. Or shall we foam it? If we glue it, it will stay level with the white one. If we foam it, then it will come out a bit further. I think I want it consistent. I'm going to glue it. No, I've changed my mind. Before that glue dries, I'm going to foam it. It's up to you on these ones. It just depends if you want all your flowers to be in a row, in which case glue it. But if you want the red and the blue to pop out a bit more than the white, foam it. I can't remember if I just said that the right way around. For them all the same layer, glue it. For them to pop out a bit more, use foam squares. There, that's correct. Do you ever get that when you've just said something and you can't actually remember if you just said the right thing or if you got it the wrong way around? That's what I was getting through there. Alright, next up is this piece. This one is definitely glued. And then we've got this bit to do with foam squares. Definitely foam squares on this one. And then the last detail layer to glue on. Next up, the blue rose, and then for the very bottom layer, this one, do whichever you did for the bottom of the red. So I'm going to foam it, but you could also glue it. Just try to stay consistent with whatever you did on the red. Then this one is next, and I'm going to, let's see, I think glue this one. And then use foam squares for the final bit. I've got some of my foam squares that I've cut smaller with scissors. Just going to add a teeny tiny bit in there. And line that up. Alright, rose is done. Let's move on to the flower pot. Starting with this piece, this red one, which will be glued. Then we've got the dark red on there, which will also be glued. Then the stripes, the white stripes for the flag, gluing again. This comes in two bits. We've got this one where it's all joined onto the rockets and flowers. Like, oh, that wasn't very well placed. There we go, that's better. That one, and then the separate stripe, which goes sort of about halfway into the remaining red. And then we've got the last rocket in the dark blue. Then the blue. Also glue. Glue for blue, blue for glue. This is a little tricky to get the glue in because there's not a lot of space. That. Then a foam square layer to make the top rim of the flower pot. There. And then we've just got the little flowers to add on, starting with the yellow, the solid layer, which will be foam squares. I'm just going to put my foam straight on here, following the flower shape rather than try and get it on the back of those little bits of card. Here's one. Then we've got the two that are joined together. The slightly bigger one is the one that appears on the right. Like that, and then the other single one for up here. Almost done now, just glue on the top layers of those flowers. And once again, rather than try and get my glue on those little bits of card, I'm going to add some dots on there. Just don't put any glue in the very middle of the flowers because that's the bit you'll see. Alright, there's my 4th of July flower pot, all finished. It's got lots of lovely layers in it to give it dimension, and it's now all ready to go in the frame. So let's see how it looks once it's framed. And here's how it looks when put in the frame with the background I created in Design Space. Very patriotic. I really like how this looks and how the background kind of brings out the same flag design that's in the flower pot here, but I used different reds, so the background's got a darker red to bring your eye in a little bit more to the flower pot in the lighter colour. You can see all the details in there. It's really, really pretty, and I love how this turned out. As well as doing the large version for the frame, I also made the smaller version into a greetings card. This is a 5x7 inch card, and I used the slice feature in Design Space to cut out some firework shapes in the background, and I've got some silver glitter paper behind there to give it a little bit of sparkle. Putting them side by side shows just how much smaller this one is compared to this one, but it's still cut absolutely beautifully. So there we have it, our 4th of July flower pot design is finished. I hope you've enjoyed crafting along with me. If you have, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Cricut crafts and free SVGs. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!